And thanks so much for tuning into the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth. We're continuing on going through the book of Mark. Today we're going to be in Mark chapter 9. Hopefully you have been encouraged and inspired, challenged by the life and ministry of Jesus. Man, when you really dive into his life, I don't know about you, but I get such a renewed appreciation of who Jesus is. And so hopefully you have discovered that as well, as we've been going through every single day, chapter by chapter, the book of Mark. And today we're going to be in Mark chapter 9. A question for us before we get into the reading. How many of you guys want to be the greatest? I know I do. Right. I want to be the greatest. Right. I think that especially because of my competitive nature, I want to be the best. I want to be the greatest. Well, the great thing is that Jesus answers the question, how can we be the greatest? How can you be the greatest? How can I be the greatest? I think that's our desire. That is something that, especially if you have a little bit of that competitive nature like myself. But listen to this encouragement in Mark chapter 8, verses 33 through 38 or 37. It says, after they arrived in Capernaum and settled in the house, Jesus asked his disciples, what were you discussing out on the road? And they were discussing on the road. They're on their way and they get the home. So he hears the whispers, the murmurs, and he asks the questions. Hey guys, what were you talking about? Verse 14, but they didn't answer. Why? Because they had been arguing about which of them was the greatest. Obviously, Jesus is Jesus. He knows everything, right? And so he knows what they were discussing. Peter is saying, hey, I'm the greatest. I walked on water. And then John's like, oh, no, I'm the greatest because I'm clearly the beloved one. He loves me the most. I'm sure there was bickering and they were fighting and, some competition was going on. And when Jesus asked that question, they were kind of because they knew that what they were doing was pretty foolish. Then they say, he sat down, called the 12 disciples over. It's kind of like a family meeting here. Have you guys ever had that before? Hey guys, let's come down. We got some correction that we need to do here. This is what Jesus was doing. So he gathers them around and he says this, whoever wants to be first must take last place and be the servant of everyone else. I don't know about you, but that is complete opposite of what we're taught in culture today. And culture from back then probably as well, because it's all the same. Sin is sin. And when Jesus reveals this answer to them, I'm sure it was just because they're naturally thinking hey, I want to push people over so that way I'm noticed. I want to make sure that my work is being known. I want to make sure that whatever it may be, we want to show that we are the best, that we are the greatest. And if we know that we're not, we're going to try to put people down so that other people can see us as the greatest, even though we think that we're not. It's such a manipulative, such a terrible way to treat one another. And Jesus knows that. And that's why he answers it by saying, whoever wants to be first must take last place to be the servant of everyone else. Then he put a little child among them. Taking the child in his arms, he said to them, anyone who welcomes a little child like this on my behalf welcomes me, and anyone who welcomes me welcomes not only me, but also my Father who sent me. What Jesus is saying is referring to and talking about humility. And is saying here that you need to have a faith like a child. You need to have compassion. You need to showcase that, the children around us, they matter, and you need to pour healthy, strong, moral values in their lives. And he's saying that not only are you doing this, are you taking this and you're welcoming me, but you're also welcoming my Father. That's God the Father. And so, hey, if you've been arguing, if you've been questioning, hey, or maybe that competitive nature, hey, I want to be the best, I want to be the greatest. Consider this, what Jesus says. You want to be the best, you want to be the greatest, you need to be the least. Another portion of the Bible says, hey, you want to be first, you must first become last. You want to find your life, you must first lose your life. And so Jesus flips the script here, flips it from what our culture is teaching us, flips it from what we think comes natural to us, not what we think, but what actually does come natural to us. And we need to relinquish what comes natural to us with that selfish tendencies and let go of those so that way we can consider others. We want to be the greatest. Let's become the least and serve one another. May that be encouragement to you as you choose to do so today. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth.